Welcome, everybody, to Week 13 of the Hot Route NFL DFS main slate breakdown. Beautiful Thursday, November 2nd. We are set to break the all-time record for high temperature for December 3rd in Oklahoma today. So it is going to be about 78, which is beautiful. It's been warm all week, going to continue throughout the weekend. A year ago, we were calculating how many inches of snow we had on the ground, so I'm enjoying this a lot better. With me, as usual, Mr. Ryan. How you doing this evening or this afternoon?
I'm doing good. It's warmer out here too, but it snowed last night, so it's all melting and just kind of pouring off the roof. And then I don't know. I'm off work for the rest of today. Gonna chill, watch the game tonight, and then we're going to Luke Combs in Boston tomorrow night. So that'll be sick.
Nice. Have you seen him before?
I have not. I've heard all the good things, and I can't wait to see him live. And then watching him on Thanksgiving Day kind of got me real pumped up to go see it.
Yeah, he is instantly went to probably one of my top 3 concerts I've been to. We saw him in San Antonio. It had been right before COVID, so like right around November, December of 2019.
Yeah,
got to see him, and it was amazing. He's not flashy or fancy, but he puts on a show for at least when we went to. I mean, I think he had one opener maybe. I know he's grown that a little bit because he wants to give back to people to let them have chances, but he got out there and it was at least 2.5, if not 3 hours of nonstop beer drinking and singing. I mean, he just lets it go, and it's a heck of a show.
he's cool too because we had these tickets before COVID, and so he didn't cancel anything. He just delayed everything. So he's coming back and making it good on everything.
Well, and on that note, they let me refund mine because we had bought tickets for his next concert but when COVID, before it was all going. And when he came back down there this year, we were like, well, I don't really want to go all the way down to South Texas. And we looked at moving him up here when he's going to come either Oklahoma or Dallas, but they just refunded it. No big deal.
Nice.
So they were, because we're like, hey, we don't live there no more. We lived there over a year ago. So they understood and wasn't a big deal at all. But I definitely will go see him when he comes back up this way. Definitely warm, nice. Going to try to play a little golf tomorrow afternoon. Got to play Tuesday. Snuck out there with no golf grind this week. Did put out rankings and some of my picks yesterday, just because we had it there. I was a little disappointed that they didn't do. I did ask my guy. I was like, if they're gonna do it, why didn't they do the captain showdown or captain mode at least to make it more combinations and a little. I can't imagine some of those big contests are gonna have some dupes on there. With straight 6 out of 20 guys you're picking, but did a little bit, but not much. Enjoying a little bit of last week was no golf as well, but doing a full Thanksgiving slate plus Sunday main slate definitely is a work as well. So this week a little bit of a laid back a bit, but now we're full go for we got probably one of my favorite college football. I mean football weekends out there. You're knee deep in NFL, drive for the playoffs. You're probably getting close to your fantasy playoff in your season longs. Best ball week 1 playoffs is this week, correct? Is that right? At least underdog.
I think this is the final week to get through. So this is the final week, and then next week's round 1, I think.
Okay, because it changed on the app. Like it went from. Like, how it had like your little medals or whatever. Now it says advanced. So I was like, all right, I don't know if that means I'm in or I assume.
Maybe I'm right. I thought this was the last week. I'll have to double check that. I've been trying not to look and get too excited about teams that get through. I just, kind of pace myself and see.
I noticed this morning because I went in there to look for, and I'll talk about this in a second. They started the playoff best ball, which is, I think, $50,000 in prizes, $10 to enter. Obviously, there's links in the description here. You can use our code GUP, get a dollar for dollar match up to $100, and those will be for playoffs only. So that'll be nice if you want to get a little. If you missed out on your best ball or didn't make it. But I went in there to look at the promo and everything to make sure I had it. I saw that my thing had changed from normally it said first, second, third, or whatever. That now it said the advanced. So I was like, okay, maybe this is the week that they started up. But either way, getting close there. Then we got championship Saturday and Friday night for college football. DK did the right thing and making it an all-day slate Saturday. So I'm looking forward to listening to Bobby's pod and then his full write-up on 8 championship games on Saturday. And then we'll be week 13, which looks like a very interesting slate. I'm excited for it. I think there's some. I mean, you don't get anytime you don't have the Chiefs on it and stuff like that. Even though they haven't been what they are, it does get. And I don't think the Bucs are going to be they'll be popular, but just because of the matchup. But I think there's plenty of ways to get off of that. And Brady's burned. I mean, that team has burned some people. They may kind of be done with that. The Rams aren't playing like they have in the past as far as that offense. So there's a lot to break down there. Rate and review us on iTunes. As you guys know, I give away all of our big stuff. We go look at that. We'll be doing a big push once we turn the calendar for March to the Masters, kick off the NASCAR season with Daytona, all that stuff. So rate and review us. We'll be giving away free tickets for that. Like and subscribe to YouTube. And the question for this week is in the comment section, if you had to pay up, you had to pick, would you rather take JT or Cooper Kupp this week if you were forced to in your single bullet entry? Underdog, already mentioned that. The link is in the description. Listener League, link is in the description. I think it's about half full, so you may want to jump into that. And then NFL main slate's 11 games this week, 8 road favorites in total. 6 of those are on this 11-game slate. Always puts a word of caution to me when I see road favorites. A little more common this late in the season because you can see some separation. But if anything showed us the last few weeks, anything can happen in the NFL. Nothing is a guarantee. I think we had probably the first 10 weeks of the season, survivor pools were just inking along, no big deal. And then I think the last 3 weeks, it's just been murder's row of big upsets. I was down to the Falcons or the Eagles last week. I liked everything about the Eagles. They were both on the road. And last night I did wind up going with the Eagles. So that ended my deal. What sucked was if I went with the Falcons, no one chose the Falcons and 4 people chose the opposite of the games I was thinking of. I think they took the Texans, and I actually kind of liked the Jets there. I didn't even look what it had been on. It had been down to 10 or 12 or something like that, if I chose the Falcons. So bummer there, but I'm in the top 25.
Jalen fucking Reagor sucks so bad. He dropped in a total, I think they dropped 3 touchdown passes that game, but the 2 on the final drive were just brutal.
Very brutal. And they, Hurts, not his best game. It didn't get the garbage time that I'm used to with him, and he's a little banged up, it seems like. We'll get into that as well. Yeah. Because we are committed to this coming out now early, I want to get Ryan. Obviously, I'll have my Cup with Gup out a little bit later with my full breakdown on Thursday Night Showdown, but want to get Ryan's opinion or a couple thoughts. If he likes anything tonight, sees anything he likes, big game. It should be a great game. Sounds like, I think I've confirmed that Hill is going to start at quarterback. Cooper and CeeDee Lamb are back. We're getting at least 1, if not 2 key pieces of the defense back. I say we because I'm a lifelong Cowboys fan. I expect Dallas to show up and do very well tonight, and I don't think it's going to be a very close game personally. I don't think Kamara plays. Any of that you're different on or you've heard different. And what do you think about the game tonight?
Yeah, I think Kamara is going to be out. I just think that both quarterbacks, it's like I wouldn't get too cute. Both quarterbacks are generally optimal or have more of a chance to be. But Taysom Hill's got that combo of, he can throw and run. And if Kamara's out, that's one less guy near the goal line that you got to contend with. So it's really just him and Ingram out there for any touchdowns if they're getting them. But I just love him on the ground and through the air. I mean, he's going to be super chalk, but I'm not sure how many people, both quarterbacks make it a little easier when Taysom's only 9,600 on their showdown tonight. One price that jumped out to me and a guy I just really like and I've always been on is Schultz. Some people might think that that's kind of a high price for him, but when all the guys are back for Dak, that's when Schultz was just eating earlier in the year. He had some some of his biggest games came when everyone was healthy and no pressure was on him. I kind of like Schultz a lot, and he's sandwiched in between Pollard's becoming like a darling and Gallup coming off a couple big weeks. You got Cooper right there. So just a lot of guys I think will take a lot more ownership than Schultz will. And I would look at Schultz if trying to be a little different.
Yeah, I think luckily DraftKings at least priced Taysom up beyond normally the min quarterback price on a showdown is $6K. And if he'd have been that 7,500 for captain, it would just been. And actually, I probably would have liked that because I just would have faded it because he'd have been even more chalk than he is. They did at least somewhat price him up. Still cheap. He's $3,300 difference. You're looking at the captain spot compared to Dak, and you almost got to look at it as, like you said, is it a good price for a running back? He's still cheaper than CD Lamb, Zeke Elliott. It's a quarterback that is going to throw some. Probably a downgrade to guys like Callaway potentially, just because I don't know how deep they're going to get on them. Probably looking for the guys that are going to go across the middle a little more, short passes. I don't even know who's going to play tight end for him right now. I think it's Vanette and Juwan Johnson kind of mixing in there, but Ingram. Now, if Kamara plays, it's going to make the slate a lot more difficult to me because now you're trying to split hairs between three guys that could all get the goal line carries, and probably a little more focus on Dallas. I personally don't think Kamara plays, and I think he'll be out because Ingram's is probable and going to play. I think he's healthy. And on a short week, if Kamara is somewhat not even close, I think they just let him sit one more week. Now he's going to get, 10 more days off. I know they need the win for sure, but, I'd rather just, and I could see some 4-2, 5-1 stacks where you maybe go Captain Taysom and then all Cowboys if you can make it work. I do like Schultz, like you said. I think it'll be a good game in general. Dallas got to win.
I don't like Montgomery. Like if people are going to look at Montgomery and see what he did last time, that was without Ingram and stuff. Like I don't. That's one guy that I wouldn't pay down for. So I'll say that.
No, and I think it boosts like a Juwan Johnson. I mean, he's going to be not high owned and very cheap. And when Taysom doesn't run it or isn't giving it to Ingram, I think it's short kick passes. And the negative about Taysom, and I'll probably light on him, and I'll talk about this in depth so we can get going on this, is Micah Parsons probably going to be shadowing him. They're probably just going to say, you follow him all game. We'll take care of the other 10. And he's quick. Taysom's good, but he ain't Micah Parsons quick at all. Parsons, if I'm Dallas, I just say, hey, you take care of him, and the other 10 will do everything else of, which is not going to make his life very fun tonight. Should be a good game, though. I'm looking forward to it anytime the Cowboys are on. Obviously, last Thanksgiving, it was a very awkward overtime because I'd kind of done the math. I was right there on the bubble of shipping the Dallas showdown and basically needed the Oakland kicker to kick the field goal and Dallas lose, which is what happened. So I did ship it, and it was $32,000. I love you, Dallas, but I'll take the $32,000. You guys can still got 2-game lead in the division, so we'll take that and move on. Going down the sheet of the cream like we always do. If you are wanting to read along as we go, we kick it off with the Colts at Texans. Colts a double-digit. We have 4 double-digit favorites. Colts and Bucks are on the road. 27.5 to 18 Texans. I like Tyrod. I really thought it's probably one of the spots where I don't want to say wrong. I didn't go like all in on them, but I thought they would do okay against the Jets. But the Jets actually, their D is better than what I think people give them credit for. I like them again this week, actually getting 7, but is this just the Jonathan Taylor show and we move on, or can you pay up for him now? I mean, to me, he's creeping into the zone of what we used to think of McCaffrey, but he's $1,000 cheaper than what McCaffrey was when he was at the prime here 2 years ago. Yeah,
like what I like about him on this slate is that there's so much like mid-range running back value that I think, the $9,200 price tag would already drive his ownership down a little bit. But now you have all this other great value at running back that he's like, I think his ownership is going to be way lower than most expect. And that makes me like him even more. So, if there's any team that's going to give their back the ball, 25 to 30 times, it seems like that's where Taylor's at right now. He's catching the ball 3-4 times a game and carrying it 20 times. And then he's used in the red zone and end zone so much, like inside the 5 and everywhere. So it's hard for me to get away from him, especially when it looks like he'll be lower owned. And then I do like Tyrod a little more, I guess, this week than last week. The more I look at it, just because like the Jets, they could run a little bit on them. So they kind of kept doing that, with their two backs. This week, I do think the Colts can kind of control the ground game and force them to throw. Plus, I think they can, blow them out. So they'll just have to go to the air, early and often. So Tyrod and Cooks, I wouldn't play in cash, but I could, definitely in a tournament. And then same thing with Taylor, and I'm undecided on Taylor in cash or not yet. Originally, I kind of made a lineup before we did this, and I had him in there, but, we'll see how the week plays on.
Yeah, my raw projections, so that's taking in historical data, spots, game spots, lines, over-unders, home away, all that kind of stuff, would have had him in this type of situation historically. So you're looking at the McCaffreys when they're going off, the Kamaras, 2 or 3 years ago when he's just eating, even at this price, it would have been 38% type, CMC, and people wouldn't even blink about it. Like they just would lock and load him. And so when you say he's lower owned, he's still probably going to flirt with the high teens, 20s in my first kind of run, but massively cheaper than what historically we would have warranted this type of spot, which should just be, they're almost a double digit. They are a double digit favorite in some spots, flirting 9-10 against a team that's going to give up the run. He's almost solely the focus when they get inside the 5-yard line. Another multiple touchdown games not out of the question. Even if he's 20%, I think it could be, at least for me, I'll take it. I'll take against 80% of the people that don't have them. And like you said, we're going to get to it. There are some other options, especially at quarterback in general. I did the coin flip right up earlier. I'll record that tonight. I'm fine with like all the mid-level cheap quarterbacks this week. Like I'm not all heavy on. I can fade most of Brady, Stafford. We don't know what his injury is like. Plus they're big favorites. That's going to be a Henderson game. We'll get there. Kyler coming off of 6 weeks of rest or whatever it's been. Jalen, we don't even know if he's going to play. Lamar on the road against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh sucks. We saw that, but still. $700-800 I can pay down, and it makes Taylor and even Cup. That's why I asked the question, who do you go to if you're going to have that? One of the two you're for. So it's not a hard slate to get him into. So I'll be interested. Like you said, we get 24, 48 hours from here. What's the industry pulse on Taylor this week? And I agree with you as far as anything else, or just sprinkles of anything else. I do like Pittman. I think he's cheap still for tournaments, still under 6K. The fear there, I guess, would be if they get up big and they just keep running it, does he get involved in the game plan? May not have to. If you think the Texans could be competitive, I think Pittman comes into the picture. If not, it's one-off pieces for me when tournament from this game in general. Next game, Giants at Dolphins, 17.75, 22.75. Giants get the upset over the Eagles, unfortunately, last week. Not a lot sticks out to me here. I agreed with you. I actually do like Gaskins this week. I have him in my notes for a coin flip. Waddle probably priced fairly, but still for the usage and I think if it wasn't, I think we're still getting an advantage on. And I even have Tua as a value play, or maybe my 1%er play this week. Is because it's Tua, and we have this. I think the public still has this perception of all the negativeness last year. Tua to Waddle that pays off a lot. And I mean, the Giants have a decent secondary, but I don't mind either one of those. I don't mind a little mini sneaky stack out of this game and run it back with your favorite Giant, depending on Lord knows who's going to be healthy for him. But because we don't know all the health stuff there, I agree with you. It's kind of like I'm looking at some Dolphins now, and I have to see, if a Tony comes out and he's fully healthy, I'll take some stabs there. But this defense is no joke either, and they're at home. Giants, coming off a big win, going to be warm down there in Miami. I kind of agree with where you're at on your write-up.
Yeah, the Dolphin D was my call last week, and it worked well, pivoting off that CMC and Newton chalk, but I'm back on it this week. And that's also part of the reason why I like, this offense as well, because they should be in good field position most of the game. Gaskin, this is a spoiler alert then, because you did tell me to come up with a sleeper for the slate that's low owned. That was Gaskin. I see most places he's like 3% or less projected ownership, and I got
him 1.6.
Yeah, so 1.6. That's crazy to me. He's over the last 6 games, he averages 20 touches a game. He's got 5 TDs in those 6 games. And this is a game where, I expect the Dolphins to roll on the Giants here. I know I expected that last week with the Eagles too, but Dolphins are home. That's different. And then you have Mike Glennon at quarterback for the Giants, and that to me is, the kind of the equivalent to what a Cam Newton is. They're just terrible. So it's I love the Dolphin D. I love the positions they'll be in, and I love how much they're giving Gaskin the ball. We mentioned best ball earlier too. That's I haven't really looked at, and I was hoping we had one more week because I have a fuckload of Gaskin. So I'm just hoping they just keep pounding the ball and I sneak a few more teams in there this week.
Yeah, I like him. I do. And that's another reason when we talk about where Taylor's not super hard to fit in. If you start with, a Tua, Gaskins, Waddle stack, it's easy to fit him in. But even if you just want to go Taylor, Gaskins, and one of these other low 6,000 price quarterbacks, it's not very hard this week to do it. And I think others will try to get too cute in that area, and I'm fine with being different this week. And I don't have to stack Brady and Evans and Godwin against the Falcons like 40% of the people are going to do, because I think there's a lot of spots that are perfectly fine that can equal that. And people that stack that Buck stack, and I say the Buck stack because my early projections are the highest projected team ownership, one of the highest of the season, 82.9% team. The game is number one, but it's mainly all Tampa Bay. The next highest team I have is Colts at 59.5. So the Bucks are going to be looks to be very popular. Again, I get it. They're on the road. I mean, they're playing Atlanta, but they are on the road, which are not as good of a road team as they are at home. They're feeding on Uncle Lenny, and he just kept stealing touchdowns left and right from these wide receivers. I get it. Brady's going to try to throw when he can, but you talk about a week where I'm not having to fade like 2 or 3 of these big chalk areas, which is Tampa Bay, Rams, Chiefs and all that. It's just, all right, I'll take my chance against Tampa. We'll get there in a minute, but I think it's a good week to be different in that area. At least I will, and maybe I get burnt on it, but we'll see. Next game intrigues me as well. It's actually one of my favorite on the slate. One side of it for sure. Vikings 27.25 at Lions 19.75. Vikings, got a little bit of life in them. They need a win. They got to keep winning. Lions keep fighting, scratching and clawing, but just can't finish the deal as we saw on Thanksgiving. I love the Vikings this week. And I don't play Cousins a lot. I know he's not at home, but it's still a 1 o'clock East Coast start time, fairly close, not too far from Minnesota. I love Cousins. I love Jefferson. I love Madison. I can mix and match those guys, put Thielen in there. I don't mind Osborne as a cheap. I'll be heavy in MME's mix and matching some Vikings this week. And I don't mind running it back with a Jamal Williams, who, if they are behind, he'll be getting passes out of the backfield with Swift and stuff like that gone. And then Reynolds, he was a big play for me on Thanksgiving, and he played well. And I think that continues with his relationship with Goff. Where are you at in general?
Yeah, I'm right with you. I think like all the Vikings, have very high ceilings here. So they all have to be in play. Madison, I have listed as a potential cash play. That's an obvious one with Cook out. He did crush the Lions last time. That was the game he started for Cook, and that was an obvious play. I believe he was like $2,000 less, though, so that made it more obvious. Sure. Here for 76, you can play him in cash, or I can see other options as well. I don't think he's just a lock. Jamal Williams, though, 5,400. He just steps into the main role, a running back role, which leads the NFL in catches for running backs. That's an elite PPR role for DraftKings for only 5,400, even on a shit team. And then he should be their preferred, goal line back should they ever find their way there. But Vikings can be ran on too. So, I don't think the Lions can really keep up with them here. Or obviously I don't think they can win, but Williams can get, 60, 70 yards on the ground. And if he's catching 5-6 passes, that's great for 5,400. Just find the end zone one time and he smashes. And then Reynolds, we were on that early. That's the Goff Reynolds connection. He doesn't have many targets. He had 5 last week, but caught the long one. I think he'll get, he'll have games, I think, where he can approach 6 to 8 targets, and, why not here when we expect the Vikings to kind of roll on him. So for 3,400, I don't think they priced him up enough. So we could take advantage of that. He's getting steamed up pretty good. So I like him as the preferred punt in cash, because I think his ownership might be up high. So maybe I don't know. I haven't decided yet in tournaments. There's another guy down there that I might switch to in tournaments, but yeah, I do like Reynolds.
Yeah, and I mean it's just ironic that when these two played last, Cook was out, and then you also look Williams, even with Swift in, actually led the team in carries, but combined those two, it was 24 carries for 108 yards, average 4.5 a carry, a touchdown. You combine those two catches, they had 8 catches, 61 yards. I think it's pretty much going to be Williams this time. Lions had no answer for Jefferson, 7 for 124, but he didn't get the touchdown. So that's a great game as it is, but he certainly can get get a touchdown. Thielen's alive. It'll be hard for me to isolate down where I want to go when you're talking 1 to 3 max. But when I'm building my big MME pools, it'll be heavy Vikings as far as team stacks and running it back with, a Williams, a Reynolds, 1 or 2 here, maybe even Hawkinson, because the Vikings doesn't have a tight end I really trust, and Hawkinson will just be low owned in general. So Lions are hungry to get a win, so they haven't given up. If they had beat the Bears, I kind of maybe would be a little less. Because you get that win. They're not doing anything else this year, but you don't want to go winless. I know they got the tie, but I think it'll still be a competitive game, but the Vikings will win in the end, and I like them a lot this week. Next, Eagles at Jets, 26.5, 19.5. Probably the biggest news is whether Hurts plays, and even if he does play, it's kind of already been said, they don't want him running around a lot on this ankle, which will bring, does Sanders, between Sanders, there's too much, sharing going on in that backfield. Doesn't make me like a lot here, unless we hear positiveness on Hurts coming into Sunday, gonna play, looks good, no holdback, stuff like that. Then intrigues me. But if he's a non-running quarterback, loses a lot of value for me. I do like Elijah Moore. He'll be talked about later for me on the coin flip a little bit. Think he'll do well. And I don't mind one off. I still think Devonta can do all right, no matter who. If it's Hurts not running, which probably helps the wide receivers because he's going to look to throw short instead of running. So I agree with you on Smith and Goddard. But the good thing about the Eagles right now, I'm avoiding the running backs altogether. It's just too hard to pick. So you take that away, it's pretty isolated where they use the ball when you're not trying to pick which one of the running backs is going to go off.
Yeah, if Hurts is out, then Minshew's 4,000. He's bare minimum, and I would definitely like that against the Jets. And I wouldn't downgrade really Smith or Goddard at all. I wouldn't mind Minshew for 4,000. And then, like you said, running it back, Corey Davis didn't practice again, so I think he might be out. But regardless, like Elijah Moore, even when Davis was in there, he's turning into the man. He's averaging 8 targets over his last 5. He's just a big playmaker too. So I love how he lines up all over the field, just finds different matchups for him, and they seem smart with how they're using him now. I kind of wish they would have done it earlier in the year, but, better late than never. So I like Elijah Moore still, 5,500. They haven't priced him up yet at all, so I think we can take advantage of that.
Rappaport just reported that Kamara is out tonight, so that sums that up. That makes it easy. We don't have to wait till last minute.
Yeah.
I just got the message. I wanted to see what it was because I saw it was a football related. I'll get more into that on Cup with Gup, but no, I agree with you 100% on all that. I definitely, I didn't even think really. That's a good point. How popular do you think Minshew would get at that price, tourney wise?
It's tough. I mean, they're playing the Jets. That's the hard part. So it's like,
right,
4,000 is such a savings.
Yep.
I guess the worry would be like the Eagles. That's another thing about last week that was kind of weird. They came out and they were like pass heavy, and then over the last 4 or 5 weeks before that, when they were actually winning and doing well, all they did was run the ball.
Well, last week when they ran the ball, they ran it well.
Yeah, I know. And
they start throwing it. Yeah.
So because of their coaching too, I don't know what they do. Like Minshew comes in, do they then just pound the ball? Because they should be able to run all over the Jets if they want to. And again, I'm not interested in the running backs because it'd be a 3 or 4 way split.
Yeah, Minshew's mobile, so I mean he's not a statue back there. I don't think they're going to run the same offense, but I think he could do okay. And at 4K, I mean I'd have some. There's no doubt.
Yeah,
I don't know if he's cash worthy or any of that. I'll let you decide that if they make that decision. But in my opinion, if Hurts is not able to run, like he's not healthy enough where he can run, then they need a bench. They don't need to put him out there because that's his strength. Like you're just let him get healthy. So. we'll see. That's definitely one that's going to be once we get the news come Sunday. How do you attack that?
Yeah, I'll have updates on the article, Sunday morning once we know. It's an early game, so we'll know in time.
Cardinals at Bears, 27.5 at 19. Cardinals 8.5-point favorites. Kyler should be making his return. Hopkins should be making his return. They've been out for a while. Do we fear rust or is it lock and load? They are at Chicago. There is chance of like 80-90% chance of rain when I look today. Nothing crazy like snow and cold, but something to keep an eye on. Could be an ugly, sloppy game. Makes me like Connor. I definitely like Mooney. You got him mentioned there. Probably a wait and see for me in general, especially if weather's involved and it's Murray and Hopkins making their debut back. But if all things are equal, Hopkins should be able to eat the secondary alive in general. Where do you go for that?
Yeah, I agree with that. Like if there's no weather involved, Hopkins at 6,200, if him and Kyler are healthy, that price makes no sense at all. It's almost as stupid as Connor's price at 5,900, which I just don't get it. These two can both eat at that price. You could play them both, and you don't necessarily need to play Kyler with them. Connor's just in this crazy role without Edmonds, where he's touching the ball 25 plus times. I mean, that's for 5,900. I just don't get it. I know the Bears D, like there's some like mythical thing where they're actually good. They're not. Hopkins can absolutely eat these guys alive, and the Cardinals can run all over them if they want to. So I don't really understand it. Maybe the weather played a factor into their pricing, or I'm just giving them way too much credit. I don't know.
Way too much credit.
Yeah, they're just stupid prices. So Connor will be one of the. Here's the thing.
I mean, there's a chance. There's a chance Chase comes back this week, but I think Connor's kind of submitted his role in the offense whenever Chase comes back or not. That 59 would still be too. Even if Chase is active on Sunday, Connor would still be too cheap, especially if we're in an 80% rain. It's going to be pound the rock type situation. That's not Chase's role. That's still going to be Connor, especially around the goal line. So yeah, it makes no sense to me. Yeah,
I totally agree. And hold on, I was just reading some Edmonds news real quick. So yeah, they're expecting him back for week 14. So I think he's going to be out. So this is going to be, Connor will be mega chalk. So if you're in a tournament and you want to just pick a one-off in this game, I mean, Hopkins' ownership, I think, is going to be pretty low in comparison to Connor. And if they just decide that he's the one that's going to, kind of roast him and get the touchdowns, then that's a great play to me.
Yeah, I got Hopkins less than half the ownership of what Connor will be. So
that's what I figured.
Another way I think, and we'll get to that as Sunday gets here, and we kind of look at the weather and all that kind of stuff, but stacking the Cardinals will be, not many people will do that. They'll just go in and get Connor or Hopkins or whatever. You go Kyler, Connor, Hopkins, and run it back with Mooney. It seems obvious, but there won't be a lot of people that do it. And they're really not that expensive. You can easily put a Jonathan Taylor in with that stack and still build. Throw a Josh Reynolds in there who's super cheap, or whoever. There's a few more down the list when we get there. It's a great mini stack game, especially, and we'll talk about this Sunday morning. I'll be in the Warrior Room, so will he, and I'll put my final thoughts out after the inactives. But weather doesn't mean bad football in all. Okay, the biggest deal is going to be wind, which can't happen in Chicago. It's a windy city. I don't care if it's 80% chance of rain. If it's just flatline winds and nothing, that doesn't bother me. It actually helps the offense in most cases because they know where they're going. I care if it's going to be 20, 30 mile an hour winds, rain, all that. That's a whole different deal. So we'll keep an eye on that once we get to Sunday, and it could move out by then. It may be gone by the game time. So, but something to keep an eye on as we get close to that, because it's a game I'm interested in for sure. Chargers at Bengals, 24-27. This is one of the most talked about games in the betting market early week. I've been lower on the Chargers and the Bills than most all year. And 6 or 7 weeks into the season, I look like a clown. Now I don't look as dumb. I think, both of those teams aren't what we thought. I don't think they're as bad as what people think, and I don't think they're as great as what people have put them on either side of it. I do like the Bengals, and I've liked them for a while. Very impressive win last week. I don't care how bad Pittsburgh is. They ran the ball great. Burrow looks better. He looks more and more comfortable each week that goes along, which is crucial coming off a big injury like that. I know people think you can just roll out there in September and it's good to go. It's not. He's going to have a little hitch. He's going to have a little nervousness, a tick, if you will, of getting that knee rolled up again. He's getting more comfortable. You can kind of see in his press conferences a little, not cockiness, but that kind of mojo he had, which he had at LSU. We finally had the T. Higgins game we've been calling for forever. I like this game in general. I think the Bengals win. I think they cover. I think Joe Mixon could run all over them. This is one of the worst rushing Ds in the league. This is another game I'm going to have a bunch of, and a favorite stack of mine is the Bengals. And I don't mind some pieces off of the Chargers, no doubt, but I'm definitely high on the Bengals here.
Yeah, I agree. I love this game. I love it because it's such a narrow target tree throughout both teams, and you just know who's getting the ball and who they're looking at. And I thought Mixon coming off that huge game last week that he would just be mega chalk here against the Chargers, who are 32nd in run D DVOA. They give up the most yards on the ground per game. You can just run all over them. And that's what the Bengals have been doing lately with Mixon. And he's 8,100, and I don't think he's going to be the mega chalk because of all these.
No, yeah, I think that's a problem. Is most people say, "Oh, his price got adjusted. I'm off of him." I'm like, "Well, it got adjusted." When sometimes that is true. It's like, that's too big of a bump. But in this situation, this role, and everything they want to do, I'd go Mixon $200 cheaper over Eckler every day and twice on Sunday. I mean, I just would.
Yeah, and this matchup too. I mean, that's just what this is. He fits the perfect mold of what the Chargers allow you to do, and they've just been using him a ton lately. So it's just like, I don't know. It's almost like they're getting to playoff time. They're just like, screw it. We're going to, he's our workhorse and let's go. And I love that. So for 8,100, and I'm seeing like ownership some places. I saw earlier, 10 to 15%. If that's the case, then yeah, sign me up. And then I just love Keenan Allen now is like 5 or 6 games in a row with double-digit targets. I mean, that's just a simple one. And Herbert's going to throw. And if they're down, which sounds like we expect them to be, he's going to throw almost 40 times a game anyways. But I think you can project 40 throws here for Herbert, which is awesome volume. So I don't think they get blown out by any means. So they're going to score touchdowns. And if they are, it's coming from Herbert one way or another. So yeah, I love this game like you do. I think everybody's, in play here, all the main guys.
I'd agree. And Higgins is still my favorite play. I know Chase will get his, but Higgins is still too cheap. I don't think last week, I think maybe and hopefully most people think, the Higgins week happened and I missed it, and they just move on, which is perfectly fine. I'll play both. I mean, don't get me wrong, but yeah, I got Higgins at 6% owned at $5,800. I'm playing that all day.
In all the games that Chase and Higgins played together this year, Higgins has more targets than him.
100%. Yeah. We've talked about that for weeks. I mean, Chase has had the big plays, and he can have one here and probably will, but you still can pay $5,800 for Higgins. And one guy I had mentioned that just off the I always mess up his last name, Uzomah. He's 3,200. I got him 2% owned. Attorney play to stack in there. He's a boomer bust because he gets a touchdown every once in a while. But if you're doing a Bengals stack and you're running back with Allen, you're kind of getting up there in price. Well, you could do Burrow, Mixon, Higgins, Uzomah, running back with Allen, and then now still be able to maybe think about a Taylor or something like that if you're needing to save some money, and you just hope you don't miss the 200-yard, 2-touchdown Chase game. I mean, it's hard to take those risks, but in tournaments that's something you can do. You still get into the game you're wanting to get into. You get most of the players you want. You get the run back you want, and you're saving your money on a tight end position, which is a lot more random than others. And it allows you to not punt your other running back or something like that. As much as I love Chase, it's just a way to get different in a game where most people will start Burrow, Chase, Allen. I mean, that's going to be a lot of starts. And probably Eckler. People love Eckler. And I don't mind them, but I'll take Mixon all day there this week. Next game, the big one as far as where everybody looks to be going towards, Bucks at Falcons, 30.75, 19.75. Bucks still haven't looked – I love the Colts last week. It was one of my favorite plays. Uncle Lenny sticks it to you at the end instead of the field goal. You get the touchdown to win it. Still don't think I was on the wrong side there. Too many turnovers. They still hadn't looked sharp coming. I mean, they weren't sharp going into the bye, and they really haven't got sharp after the bye. Mike Evans looks a lot better than Godwin, but Godwin continues to be 2 or 3 times as owned. We talked about that last week. I liked Evans over Godwin. I originally liked Godwin. I think in my final thoughts, or one of them, maybe the nucleus, I came back and said, hey, I'm splitting hairs between these two, and if you're going to give me Evans at half the ownership, I'll just take Evans each and every week until people change that. They're only $100 difference. Patterson looks good. Got the price up finally, $7K. Where are you at in general here? I still think Gronk's too cheap. He's probably going to be a lock and load for me in a lot of stuff. Outside of that, I can go anywhere here, but I just got to be cognitive of it. It's going to be super chalky here.
Yeah, I agree. You got the price drop on Godwin and Evans as well after a bad week. But I'm with you. I'm right back on Evans. He's one of my favorite tournament plays of the week. And I kind of like, and obviously Brady, but that's going to be super popular. Like I said, everyone's going to play the Bucs, expect Brady to bounce back. But when you have a bounce back week, like Evans scored 5.4 week 1, week 2 he comes back, scores 24.5. He scores 4.7 week 6, comes back week 7, 31.6. He scored 4.6 last week. Fully expect him to bounce back. And it's a guy who averages almost 20 fantasy points a game, throughout his career. I mean, he's just been one of the most consistent guys in fantasy. So after a total dud, I'm always on Evans. I love it. What's crazy too about that Fournette game is that Ronald Jones scored a touchdown too. So that was kind of nuts. So there's even another touchdown out there that no one else got. So, I like all the guys in this game. If I'm going to run it back with a pass catcher on the Falcons, I like Pitts the most. I just think he's probably the only one in my eyes that has like a 100-yard game in him here. So it's been a while, but he's shown the potential to do it. He's done it multiple times this year. So I do like Pitts for 5,600, and it'd be hard for people to pay that price for him because this offense has been flaky lately.
Well, and I think, my two comments on that, and we'll move on, is one, I think Patterson for sure will be used more receiving this week because they're going to know they can't run on him very well. So look for that. You can get a lot of PPR out of him, and he's priced up. He's going to be, if you do go Bucks this week, I would have Patterson because that's going to be a different that not many people are going to do. I don't even know what I have Patterson at ownership wise, but I promise you it's not much at $7K against the Bucks. But I still like him. 4.8%. So if you're going to go into that, you got to get different. If you go a Bucks stack and run it back with Pitts, you've not really gained anything on the field. You better have some very unique one-offs with that stack. And the second thing to know, this brings up a thing I point out in coin flip. This is a tremendous week for double tight ends. I would not be shocked if the Millie Maker team winds up double tight end. People don't like to do it. They still don't do it. You got Gronk too cheap. You got Pitts. Kittle can go off at any given time. We talked about Goddard no matter who the quarterback is. Andrews is back on the slate. Lamar's been locking in on him. You got Foster Moreau, who's going to get $2,700 is going to be chalked because Waller's out. Cole Kmet coming off a big game. In that offense, there's a ton of Uzma, Uzma that I talked about earlier with the Bengals. There's a ton. I wouldn't restrict tight ends from being in the flex this week by any means. I think it could be a good way to save some money as well. And I like a lot of those tight ends more than I do number 2, number 3 wide receivers on the slate, especially if you're paying up at running back. Washington football team 23.5 at Raiders 26. Raiders with the big upset on Thanksgiving Day. Thank you, kicker. I love you. Washington's hanging in there, though. I mean, with Dallas losing, everybody in that we thought the East was locked up. I still think Dallas wins tonight, and I think they finish strong because they're getting healthier. They finally get their piece. People, they want to say, "Well, you lost this, you lost that." I'm like, "What do you mean you lost?" They lost basically their entire offense outside of the running backs. Their best left tackle was out, last couple weeks. He did play on Thanksgiving, not full strength. And now they're getting even healthier on the defense, which has been, up front's been hurting them. And you'll see tonight, I think it'll make a big difference. But I think that means Washington knows, hey, we got to keep winning. I like them in this game. I like them getting 2.5. I know they're on the road. I'm not saying the Raiders are fake by any means, but I like Heineke. I'm a fan of his. I root for just his story. Kind of reminds me of Kurt Warner in a way. He's gutsy. He goes out there. He leaves on the field. I think there are some pieces in this game that are kind of cheap. Gibson, 5,700. Logan Thomas getting back in the action, 4,000. I think we're still getting ahead. There's another tight end, that we're getting ahead of the curve there. We know Waller's out. I don't think Foster fills in that role per se, but at his price, he's going to get some looks that makes it worth it. Where are you at in this game?
Yeah, I like this game a lot, actually. That was like when we were talking earlier, there's these other quarterbacks in this range
Yep.
that you can target when we're talking about Tyrod. Well, Carr and Heineke are two of those for me. I like this game a lot. And Gibson is going to be the mega chalk here, especially if McKissick misses the game. Sounds
Yep.
like he might. And 5,700, even if McKissick plays, that price is just weird.
Yep.
I don't get it. So, and Josh Jacobs too is only 6,000. I think that'd be like your tournament pivot in this game to be a little different. Kind of like in the Cowboy game. If we think this game can score a lot of points, just I don't expect to do what the Cowboy Raider game did, but if they're going to score and reach this total, I would expect Jacobs to at least be a part of it. He's catching a few more passes lately too, so I think that's a way to get different here. And then Logan Thomas, like you said, I love that for 4,000. I was high on Logan Thomas heading into the year, and this tight end role has been pretty decent for Washington the whole year. So I think Thomas is good. I think he's good in the red zone. So for 4,000, it's you could do a lot worse there. And then Deshaun Jackson for 4,200. He's another tournament flyer. He's still just roasting people, and he only needs one catch at that price to kind of bust out. So I like him a lot too.
Yeah, and I don't mind McLaurin. The one thing I do like about him is he stretches that field, and so that when you talk about Thomas coming underneath, if he's healthy, it definitely gives him openings at tight end there at 4K, and he's athletic enough to do something with it when he gets it. So I again, another tight end. I think double tight ends in play. I'm interested to see how the Raiders offense looks. Even when Waller was inept and not playing well or not looking like the stats were there, the defense still had to give him a lot of respect. And so you'll be able to, I want to see how they operate a little bit. I probably lean Heineke over Carr because, I want to see how Carr operates and where they decide to go. When you got one or a safety over the top on Waller all the time, it opens things up. Well, I mean, I like Foster Moreau and he does a good job in his role at times. He's not Waller. And so I do want to see how that action, it could wind up opening up a big game for like Jackson, like you said. They just say, we got to go deep or we got to get these guys a ball because we can't rely on Waller. He's not here no more. They'll try to run the football as well. Do you have any love for backup running back if they have to get involved in the passing game a lot? I feel like he's got a game. Kenyon Drake, so I'm thinking of. I know Josh Jacobs is the guy, but $4,400. I probably no reason to go there, but if they had gotten because of Waller being out, do you think he could get involved more out of the backfield? I guess would be my question.
Yeah, possibly. I think this game is going to be close, and the Raiders. I think the Raiders can win. So it's like I'd rather just stick with Jacobs in this, and I don't really know if it's a Drake kind of scenario for me here.
It is something for me. Again, probably a wait and see, but I'm interested to see how they may use Drake to try to make up for some of the Waller stuff. Something to look at. Jaguars at Rams, double-digit home favorite Rams, who have not looked good at all. Sounds like Stafford's banged up. What's new? I don't know where I'm at in this game. I like Henderson. He's still cheap enough for me, and Jefferson's getting more and more involved. I like some one-offs for the Jags. I still don't trust them completely. They're going to have to throw the ball because they're not running the ball. I don't think they'll run very well against – and the Rams' run D isn't the end-all, be-all, but I just still don't think they're going to be able to do much here. Probably I'm taking pieces for this game. I'm not doing much. We talked about Shenault. You mentioned it, that they wanted – and they did. He had 9 targets last week. It didn't turn into much because he had a couple that they tried to throw him quick screens and stuff behind the field, and it was a loss of one here or there. 4,400. He's a flyer for me, but this is definitely a one-off piece, and I still love Henderson.
Yeah, Henderson, I still love. He is questionable. If for whatever reason he does end up sitting, then Sony Michel's just a smash play here.
Yep.
He's in like the low $5,000 range. I do like Van Jefferson still, 5,300. If Skoronek or whatever his name is comes back for the Rams, it seemed like him and OBJ were kind of in and that might have been because Beckham was still new to the team, but they were rotating in and out. But it seems like they like Skoronek, so I don't know what they do there. Where Jefferson just maintained his role. He's just there doing the same thing he did the whole time. So I don't mind Jefferson for 5,300. And then on the other side of the ball, like the pivot I like off of a Reynolds type guy is Treadwell at 3,200. he was out there running, second most routes in the team and saw 8 targets. So if that's going to be his role now with no Agnew's out and we know about all their other injuries, then yeah, I like Treadwell, flyer for 3,200 in a game where they're going to have to keep, throwing to, potentially keep up with the Rams. That's how we're thinking it's going to go and how Vegas think it's going to go. And then O'Shaughnessy too is another punt, 2,600. Arnold's hit the IR as well, so another guy goes down. And O'Shaughnessy I was on before everybody in the beginning of the year because this role that the tight end plays for the Jaguars is nice. They run half their routes out of the slot. It's just a good, and they're always losing. So the target share should be there. But for 2,600, if he can get 5-6 targets, maybe have 50 yards, 60 yards, double-digit points for 2,600, that's not bad. And just what if they get into the end zone? Then he's just an ultimate play. So I don't think he can be ignored in tournaments.
No, and I agree. Treadwell is one that is a good flyer, I think. Still can't get every time I think of his name and everything, that gruesome leg injury at Ole Miss, which is something to think about. I mean, I'm not saying it takes that long to heal, but it was nasty. And definitely before that injury, I mean, he was going to be one of the top dudes coming out of college. He was a stud at Ole Miss. I think he started with the Vikings, if I remember right. Didn't really get there, but you could see him come along here. I definitely could see that. Again, like you said, the price doesn't take much to pay off that, and he was a speedster there. I'm sure his speed's back up, and I didn't realize he had that much targets. So that's a good point. I really like that call as well.
Maybe it's just a thing if you're an old Vikings receiver and they couldn't figure out what the hell to do with you, like Cordell Patterson. So maybe Treadwell's next one up.
Exactly. So I'll pick some pieces out of there for sure. I don't think it's something I stack. I can mini stack for sure. Like you said, Henderson, Jefferson, Treadwell, that little 3 combo, or Chenault if you want to get in there. I still think they're going to try to get him involved. Nice game, old school, Ravens, Steelers. Shockingly, only a 3.5 point favorite, the Ravens. I don't like that necessarily because it always makes me, those guys in Vegas know what they're doing most of the time. Steelers just don't look good at all, and they're on the verge of their season. I don't know if last week was a dream crusher and they're done and out or not. They still got. I mean, that division's so tight, but boy, they don't look like they have much going for them. I like anything with the Ravens. Even though they're on the road, this is one we'll keep an eye on weather. I don't think there's much there. But this late in the year, Pittsburgh, Chicago, New York, all those places, I try to look a little bit Thursday, but I really don't look till I'm getting the final stuff ready Saturday and then ready to talk about it Sunday morning. I don't like much out of the Steelers here. We've always said I can go Deontay Johnson just because. But outside of that, I like Lamar. I like Hollywood. I can go Mark Andrews, back to the tight end situation. There's cheap pieces out of the Steelers if you think they can do something. You have a little more written down than I do on Steelers. What do you see?
I just can't quit Deontay. I just got the man crush on Deontay. So doesn't matter if they're in a game or they're down 40 like last week. He's just he eats every single game. So I still like him, and he's still at that same exact price like he is every week, 6,800. He's just right in that same range every time. So I don't mind him. And I think a sneaky play here would be Devonta Freeman, someone who could pound a TD or 2 in. He'll be 1% owned or less because he's 5,500. So he's right in with all those running backs who are going to touch the ball a lot more. But I think, he could have decent volume here. And if they do use him near the goal line, that's all he needs to pay off. I mean, that's super MME type play, but I don't mind it at all for him. And then when I wrote this, I didn't know about Freiermuth, but I guess he's back at practice in full right now, so he might give it a go. If he plays, I would probably be off. I listed Claypool here. I'd probably be off him and back on Freiermuth. I just like the target share he gets and the end zone looks he gets in that offense.
Freiermuth would have to pass protocol, though, right, to play?
Yeah, I think so. And that's kind of why I counted him out, is because it doesn't seem like guys have really been back after 1 week from concussions this year. It seems like they are off a week and then they come back. So I don't know. We'll have to track that one heading in. I like all the guys in the Ravens that you do, by the way, just the typical suspects there. Brown, Andrews, Lamar.
Yeah, and you can always go neck of Lamar. That's always a thing. This Pittsburgh defense isn't what they have been. They're decent. This game's always, it's a physical, old school game. You're early December. It's not one I'm running to the window to get to. Most of the stuff's MME for me if I want to get some pieces. Last game on the slate, 49ers at Seahawks, 24.5, 20.5. 49ers 4-point favorites on the road. Like 49ers for a while now, a few weeks. They were my lock to be in my Survivor last week. And then Saturday when I went to the way the sheet is, I missed that they were my very first pick of the season, which sucks because that would have obviously been a lot better turnout for me. But I like him. I still do. I think Jimmy G, he's one of the cheaper quarterback guys that we were talking about earlier, that he can get things going. Debo's, is he out or is there a chance?
He's out. I don't think he's going to play.
Yeah. So, that hurts that offense, but I still think the way Ayuk and Kittle and Eli Mitchell are playing, that maybe everybody just jumps off and says, well, without Debo, they're nothing. I don't necessarily think that. And Seattle is god awful in every sense of the fashion right now. Lockett seems to be the only guy consistently producing. I don't think that means you can't get some Metcalf in. There's not a lot here. I would do a mini stack, potentially with like a Jimmy G, Ayuk, Kittle if I wanted to, and obviously Mitchell involved. I like Mitchell, I like Ayuk, and I like Kittle, so I can have them in my pool. And maybe Lockett, Metcalf, because I don't think they'll be very high owned, but not a game I'm running to again, very much like the Ravens game we just talked about. What about you? It's your 49ers. What do you think they do without Debo?
I think it's just going to be the Eli Mitchell show again. He's going to be pretty chalky for DFS purposes, but it is what it is. They're out to do one thing, and that's just run. They just try and keep the ball out of Jimmy G's hands. And when he's throwing, he's just throwing these low A-dot, timing patterns, and it's just Eli Mitchell. I had thought when he was out, that's why they were using Debo more in the backfield, but they just they didn't really line Debo up in the backfield as much when Eli was back. They just had him outside and still ran the ball 6-7 times. So those carries are gonna have to go somewhere. I think Jeff Wilson will probably get a few more, but this is Mitchell's backfield. He has just completely taken over. And this is now 2 weeks in a row where a defender has ripped a 49ers helmet off and tried to punch him. That happened 2 weeks ago because they're blocking so hard downfield. So it's just like this weird mentality where they're going to go out and just smash you into the ground and run over you. So it frustrates defenses. As a Niner fan, I'm always worried traveling to Seattle. Just not a good track record there for this regime. But I don't know. It's hard to see how the Seahawks can stop that running game. And then Ayuk, I think, will be pretty chalky as well. With Debo out, targets are going to have to go somewhere. I really like Kittle, because I don't think Kittle's going to get the ownership Ayuk's going to get. He's only $300 more.
Well, and we talk about season-ending stuff. Seahawks are done. They're not going to the playoffs. You heard Carroll after the game kind of throwing shade at Russ. He said, well, we have people open. We just get them the ball. That house is it's about that meme where the little girl's there and everything behind her is on fire. That's the Seahawks right now. So it would take a lot for me to get any Seahawks, because this could just implode by the second quarter. And I don't care. I get it. Yeah, you're close to that situation. When you have a team that just doesn't matter, it's always hard to go beat them. A little worrisome, but handicap wise, probably one of my favorite plays of the week is 49ers at that number. I know they're on the road, but Seattle has nothing to play for. They have zero shot at the playoffs. We don't know who's going to be back and who's not, but I would take bets that not Carroll and Russell Wilson won't be back. One of them won't be there next year. Maybe not both, but I don't think both will be back. So you could see some blow up, and you can see it this week. And we know Metcalf's, a ticking time bomb. So when he gets pissed, he shows it very well as, like you talking about blocking down. He'll get pissed in this game at one point in time. So again, I like Eli for sure. I think like you said, there's ownership there with it. But he's another one of those, 6,000 is not much for a running back. So that's another reason why we talked about potentially being able to pay up for Taylor and put pieces around him this week. Good slate this week. I think it's a lot of good games. The only clear chalk so far seems to be Tampa Bay. We'll see how that shakes out come Sunday. Favorite favorite 2 plays, just kind of core pieces of the week for you. This is tournament only, not cash. You got all the cash covered. If you're clicking 2 buttons and you're wanting to start a lineup, what would it be?
I think just from talking through it here, probably Mixon and Evans, just because I think they're in such great spots, but their ownership isn't what it should be. So it just it doesn't seem right. Like Mixon, I thought would be, if I'm seeing projections 10 to 15, I thought he'd be 25 to 30. And then Evans, I think, should be right along with Godwin, but he never is. He's always about half of what Godwin is. So those would be 2 of my favorite tournament plays.
Yeah, Mixon was mine as well. I could go Eli Mitchell too, because if his ownership stays where it's at, he's going to be under owned, but we'll see how that shakes out. And then mine was Jefferson. I think Jefferson has a monster game this week against Detroit. Yeah. He's on path to set, first guy in 2 years of football records. You'll hear that a lot. And Detroit does not have anybody that can guard him at all. So he can eat as much as they want him to eat. So those are 2 pieces for me that'll be high on my list. So it probably means fade Mixon, because that never goes well when 2 people are on him. We don't talk about it beforehand. Monkey Knife Fight.
It worked last week. We were on some good shit last week.
Monkey Knife Fight link is in the description. I will have my NFL and college football plays on the coin flip later today. UFC is back this week. I thought it was last week. That's my mistake. Knockout Kings is back. They have their jackpot. Pick 3 fighters to win by KO or TKO, and you win a share of that jackpot. Read Tommy's write-up stuff. Get in the Warrior Room. You can easily find 3 guys for that. Plus, like I said, I'll have my NFL and college football plays out later today on the coin flip. Get in the Listener League as well. It is in the description. Bobby Burgers, the Read Option College Football Main Slate Pod should be out tomorrow morning. I will drop Cup with Gup here in about an hour. And then coin flip later this evening or first thing in the morning. Don't forget, Hot gets you 20% off any package. Includes a 7-day risk-free trial. Had a lot of people join last week on the Black Friday, Cyber Monday. Had a lot of people come back that were previous members and reach out to me. They're very pleased with the upgrades and the Green Machine. Last I looked last week, we had the Green Machine accounted for. This is people that played it and told me about it, which included myself on Showdown. Over 75,000 winnings at a Green Machine optimizer lineups. Come check us out now. You get 7 days free. This is a huge weekend across all sports. Get it free. If you don't like it, you can get out of there after this weekend. No harm, no foul. Any final thoughts, Ryan, before we wrap it up?
No, just make sure you check everything Saturday morning, Sunday morning. We'll have updates for you, and let's get it.
All right, I'll be back here in a little bit with Cup with Gup, and then I will see you guys later for a coin flip tonight. Go Cowboys, and you guys have a blessed evening. Thanks.